Hey everybody, and welcome back to Marvel Champions Experience. Remember, as always, please, I would always appreciate it if you consider liking this video. If you truly like this content, please think about subscribing. And especially for this one, this is going to be a good one. Well, hopefully it's a good one, right? Knock on wood. Uh, Please drop a message down in the comments below. Let me know if you like what you're seeing, if you don't like what you're seeing, if you'd like to see something in specific. But this one, definitely give me some comments if you have any reactions or feeling about what we're talking about today. And what we're talking about today is the new and updated rules reference. So this is, I believe, 1.5. And there are a couple things here that I found really interesting. And I'm going to just say this off the top that I will actually give a look over of the updated rulebook probably over the week, because I've been playing this game since 2020, so maybe, like almost 3 years. And I always see, I'm on the subreddit, right? So I always know when the new rules reference pops up. So I always read the big changes, right? And I always assumed that it was just kind of fixing words so that we understand, like if we had questions about what takes priority, etc. I didn't even know this is, I play this game a lot. I didn't even know that there was I believe it's pronounced errata section, where cards have basically had their words redone, reworded and changed. So if I mean, and I think I'm pretty computer savvy, and I do my best to like be in the know of things. If I didn't know about this, I think there's a lot of people who also probably don't know about this, right? You I would assume you just buy the game and you keep playing the game, but they've actually changed some rulings in this that I think is really cool, but you got to be, in the know you have to know where to check. So let's take a look what they got today. All right. So we're going to actually look at this together in a little bit. So we're going to go through the rules reference, but what they've said is they've updated to Rule 1.5 with nearly 2,000 cards in the game. We're bound to have questions on how they interact, and we will check the highlighted versions for today's rules reference. Okay, and so let's see this. It says this one is called Changing the Game. One of the fundamental rules of Marvel Champions is that an ability must change the game in order to be initiated. This seemingly simple rule led to many questions about what exactly qualifies as changing the game. And they felt that this rule could sometimes feel constraining, limiting their creativity. So they say they don't want to simply remove rules, right? But they don't want to break the sense of immersion. And with those considerations in mind, they have replaced the change the rules, the quote unquote change the game rule, with a narrower targeting rule. So it says any ability that requires a target must have a valid target in order to be initiated. For example, an event that only targets minions must have a minion to target in order to be played, which seems a little obvious, but if an ability requires more than one target, it only needs to have a single valid target to be playable. This means melee, right? Deal 3 damage to an enemy, deal 3 damage to another enemy, can still be played if you only have the villain to attack. So you need to make sure that you have at least an initial target, okay? What qualifies as a valid target? In short, it is any target that can be affected by the ability. For example, get ready, right? Ready an ally, can only target an exhausted ally. So your ally needs to be exhausted for it to be used. Okay. I'm going to assume this is because maybe people like played this as an event in order to trigger some other card. And it says for justice can only target a scheme with at least one threat on it. Right. So removes 3 threat from a scheme. So the threat, again, you couldn't, if the thing that I'm thinking of right now is if the scheme had like 0 threat on it, you can't play this to play Turn the Tide after that, right? Like it would have to, this would have had to remove some threat. If an ability has more than one effect, a target is valid if at least one of those effects would affect the target. For example, concussive blow, right, can target an already confused enemy as long as you paid for it with a physical resource in order to deal damage. So this says, right, confuse an enemy. If you paid for this card using a physical resource, deal 3 damage to that enemy. So as long as one of these, as long as one of the effects would affect the target, so the first thing that happens is confusing the enemy, which couldn't happen because they would already be confused if they were confused already. However, since you can do this second one, this card can be played. Additionally, you do not take into account the cost of an ability when determining whether that ability can affect a target. Let's read that again. You do not take into account the cost of an ability when determining whether that ability can affect a target, though you must still be able to pay all core costs in order to initiate the ability. For example, What Doesn't Kill Me has an additional cost of healing 2 damage from your hero and an effect of readying your hero. Okay? We'll look at the card in a second. If your hero is already ready, you cannot play What Doesn't Kill Me because your hero is not a valid target for the readying effect. Okay? Even if What Doesn't Kill Me can affect your hero by healing damage from it. That sounds a little confusing, but I'll break it down. Okay? You cannot also play What Doesn't Kill Me if your hero is exhausted, but is at full health, because then you cannot pay the cost of healing the 2 damage from your hero. Okay? So, let's take a look at this. Basically, it's saying that right here, you also cannot play What Doesn't Kill Me if your hero is exhausted, but is at full health. So basically, you need to be able to pay this heal 2 damage from your hero. That is a cost. Okay? So in order to play What Doesn't Kill Me, you can't be at full health and you must be exhausted. So if your hero is not exhausted, you can't play this just to heal 2 damage. And vice versa, if your hero is exhausted but at full health, you cannot pay the cost because you're at full health already and you can't overheal. So you need to be able to pay the additional cost and trigger the effect. Okay? All right. Adjusted permanence. The permanent keyword has received some refinements in order to function more as intended. We have clarified that cards with the permanent keyword do not count towards players' minimum or maximum deck size. Okay? This is because these cards are never shuffled into a player's deck or the encounter deck, and are all instead set aside at the start of setup. No longer will Wolverine be unable to get his claws out of his hand. Now, I've had some great conversations with a couple people, on this channel when I was using Wolverine, and I said that I played a house rule where I just put the claws into play. And it's for this reason exactly. Because if you're going by the rule of the game, right, Wolverine's claws was not a setup. Okay? It was not a setup ability. That means that it would be shuffled into your deck. And if you were playing somebody like Ultron, who sets up first, right, and his first ability is to take your top card and make it a minion, you now lose your claws if that top card is your claws. So I'm glad that they did this because a lot of people house ruled things like this, and now any card with a permanent doesn't count towards your deck size and it is not shuffled into your deck at first. So I think this is a great clarification. Set up for success. So I think a lot of us were doing this already, so I'm glad that they just made it official now. So it says, with 35 scenarios, we don't need to read that. They felt that it was important to formalize the setup process for the game to be played as intended, right? The updated setup instructions now include steps for the campaign setup and the setup keyword. They also clarify the order in which the main scheme and villain setup and when revealed abilities should be resolved. We'll take a look at that in a second. It says, in the process of developing all these scenarios and playing countless games of Champions, we observed how players, like myself, including them, right, tend to set up the game in practice and how that differs from the rules as written. In order for the rules to more closely align with how players actually set the game up, we have combined the create and counter deck and shuffle and counter deck steps into a single step. What that means is this. If you're playing by the law of the letter, right, the instruction manual says it's something along the lines of shuffle the encounter deck, then deal out your cards, etc., and play the setup instructions. And then it says, then add your obligation card into the encounter deck and shuffle it again. I know I don't do that. I just shuffle everything together at once, and technically I was playing wrong. But you know what? I'm not trying to shuffle the deck twice. It just seemed like extra steps for the sake of extra steps, right? This is a single player. This is can be a single player game, right? It's not a versus game. You know, no one's playing for like a ranking system. You know, I wouldn't say it's cheating. It's just making it's quality of life. So I'm glad that they did this. Basically aligned with the way so many people play. Oh, you know what, man? I wanted to say this in the beginning of. I really hope you listened up to this part. I made a mental note to say this at first. You know, before doing this, I was planning on doing this video already, but I saw some amazing content creators. Josh from Get Up and Games. You had Nelson at All Over Cards, right? Those are, I'm sure other people have done videos like this as well, but those two are the ones that I saw on Reddit. Make sure you check out everybody, right? Not just me, please. Like, go check out Get Up and Games with Josh. Go check out Nelson All Over Cards and other people, right? Those are fantastic content creators, and I'll never say I'm perfect. I might be missing a certain thing here, and you know they can clarify it. They might have caught something that I didn't, so check them out as well. They're fantastic. Okay, all right. So here is the errata. No, that doesn't. I don't like the way that sounds. Errata. All right. So this is the first time I knew this existed. I'm sorry for sucking. All right. So we put a great deal of effort in making sure the language of every component of the game is understandable, consistent, and grammatical, but there's always going to be mistakes that make it through. That's where this comes into play. Because we've released 21 products in nearly 2 years. It has been since our last rules reference update, and we have a fair number of new errata in this update. Most are minor technical updates that don't change the function of a card, but there are a handful that we made to benefit the long-term health of the game. So here are the big ones, and this top one is definitely deserved and a huge nerf to Cosmo. So Cosmo was originally written to allow him to interact with any deck in the game, and many players have found him invaluable companion for Doctor Strange and his invocation deck, because you know that the next card is going to be a spell, right? So basically, you could always play Cosmo and he never takes damage because you knew what the next card was going to be. And it also allowed you to shuffle through that invocation deck, right, in order to get what you want. So we found over time that this flexibility creates obstacles when we are trying to design scenarios or heroes who have a special deck that would be negatively affected by Cosmo's ability. So we have decided to restrict his ability to only affect player decks and encounter decks. So he's still great, right? But now you can no longer use him to check the invocation deck or something like Red Skull's side scheme deck, right? So Cosmo is going to be able to be played as intended. James Rhodes' ability to shuffle War Machine events back into his deck was always intended to be limited to once per phase, but the limit was omitted. It has now been added. So you can notice it says limit once per phase. I was always playing it that way, so maybe I didn't take advantage of how maybe like OP he was. All right, this is the ally Miss Marvel in Nova's deck. Has a powerful ability to reoccur event cards at the cost of dealing herself damage. However, because of a distinction they have recently drawn between dealing damage and taking damage, it became possible for Miss Marvel to infinitely recur the Go for Champions card, which we'll talk about in a second. To limit this and also ensure Miss Marvel cannot bring back event cards that are removed from the game or put into other out-of-play areas, we have added language that limits her ability bringing back events to her hand from the player's discard pile. Let's see if it says anything here. After you play an event, exhaust Miss Marvel, deal 1 damage to her. Return that event to your hand from your discard pile. So basically it has to be from your discard pile, right? Now, this is the card that really took the hit. Go for Champions. This has got a whole wall of text here, right? And I'll just basically tell you what it says. So this used to just be like play Go for Champions and it gets discarded. However, right, now you remove this from the game first. You remove this from the game, and then each champion character after that cannot take damage from the round. So this gets removed from the game first, right? So now you can't bring it back with Miss Marvel. and then we're done. So basically, you can only play Go for Champions once, and they said that they did that because of how powerful the card was, and you have to consider carefully whether you want to play it early or help you get off to a fast start. So I guess this card was pretty broken. I never used it a lot. Too bad I didn't get to use it the way a lot of people were using it, which is really cool. I think I've seen my buddy Matt use it really successfully. But those are the main changes in the update. But there's more, right? So let's take a look at them, and we'll go over some of them and see if anything pops out to us. Right? I'm not going to go through this whole 56 pages. That would be insane. All right. So it looks like summary of notable changes. Replaced all change the game requirements with valid target requirements. Expanded timing priority. Let's take a look. We'll scroll down, take a look at the red things that catch my eye. And that's why you should check out people like Get Up in Games, Nelson, and any other player that you see making content, because I'm skimming through this for you, right? What I don't notice, someone else will. So, all right, let's see. If an ability specifies one or more target, that ability can only be initiated if it has at least one valid target. We spoke about that one already. Okay. Examples of targets are not limited to minion, enemy, scheme. We spoke about that a little bit. Any player can use an ability on an encounter card with the following exceptions. Only the player who controls a player card with the attachment. Timing. I think this one's important. All right. Some timing abilities have priority over other abilities. In order, the timing priority abilities with the same triggering condition is constant ability keywords goes first. Okay. So things like, what do we have here? I think I need glasses, and I'm forgetting the name of the word. Acceleration. Acceleration, the boost icon, crisis, or another encounter card, right? Then we have status cards that take effect, followed by force interrupt, then boost when defeated, when revealed abilities, force response. So this is, and then consequential damage last. So this is how the timing works. Okay. So I think this is a really good thing to take a look at and make sure we're all doing this correctly. Okay. Whoops. I don't want to make a comment. All right. Acceleration tokens placed on cards other than the main scheme still add threat. That's pretty obvious, I think. Yeah, this is pretty obvious that they are removed if they're placed on other cards and they're removed from play. They are also leave play. Players, no. Alliance. This is just keyword. This is just like phrasing changing. Let's see. If an attachment has a scheme or thwart modifier, it modifies the attached character's scheme. If it is a villain or a minion, it modifies the thwart. All right. Yeah, I mean, seems pretty obvious. Let's see. Enemy activation. This is pretty good to take a look at. All right. Let's see. Resolve each of the attacking enemy's boost cards one at a time. Okay. Resolve each of the attacking enemy's boost cards one at a time and in the order in which they were dealt by doing the following. Flip the boost face up. Resolve the boost abilities. All of the abilities of the thing can be ignored. Increase the attacking enemy's attack value by 1. Discard the boost card. If the enemy has any other boost cards remaining, repeat these steps. Okay. Let's see. If a hero with a tough status... what's this? If a hero with a tough status makes a basic defense, the damage is first reduced... Oh, hang on. Okay. If a hero with a tough status makes a basic defense, the damage is first reduced by that hero's defense value. If the damage is reduced to 0, the hero keeps their tough status. That's interesting. I thought it was the other way around. I'm glad that I'm doing this. Okay. So there you go. If you have a tough status card and you defend, your defense happens first. And if it is removed, if it's just 0, you can keep your tough status card. If I'm the only person who didn't know that, I'm the fool. Let's see. These rules apply to enemy attacks. Interrupts that trigger have the same timing. Character who can initiate. Let's see. A character can only initiate a basic attack if there's an enemy that can be attacked by that character or if that character is stunned. Makes sense? Let's see. An ability is labeled as an attack. Consider a single attack. Even that attack deals. All right, so it's a single attack. I'm just skimming. Attacks against allies. Any boost abilities that refer to you refer to the player who controls the attacked ally. It looks like that's just some wording that's being updated. Oh, we're only on page 10 right now. Let's see. I'm just picking and choosing at this point because I don't want to like take your time. Meh. Choose options. Some abilities instruct a player to choose between multiple options. Choose either to take 1 damage or discard one from your card from your hand. When an encounter card requires a player to choose an option, they must choose an option that they can resolve. Haha. That one's against me. I've definitely been playing dumb for that. I kind of assumed that was the rule, but no one ever told me, but now they've told me. If they cannot fully resolve an option, they must choose the option they can most fully resolve. Yeah, I'm gonna call myself on that one. I kind of assumed that, but I was playing the you didn't tell me you couldn't do that card. When a player card requires a player to choose an option, they cannot choose that option. Yeah, we already spoke about that. Require 1 or 2 targets, blah blah blah. A character is confused. What? Yeah, that seems obvious. We spoke about this already. The cost cards. Yeah, we spoke about that. Damage. Tough status card resolves before interrupts to dealing damage. Tough status cards resolve before interrupts. Got it. Okay. So this looks like if you are making a defense and then play something like expert defense, that expert defense actually doesn't take effect first. This would. So because the tough status was resolved before that. So that's good to know. Okay. What's here? Defend. This just seems like double-sided. Again, a lot of these seem like wording stuff, right? When a card ability says to declare an ally the defender, that ally becomes a defender. A lot of these are wording changes that I don't really think are necessary to read. Double-sided. Any effects that last until the end of player phase end. Yeah, obvious. Engage. Find. Forced. What is this? Game element. Game element. The following. Yeah. A lot of wording changes. Small little changes. Initiating abilities. Looking for valid targets again. So we know that. Interrupts. You can look. This is why I'm skipping a lot of this stuff. Players can only trigger interrupt abilities on cards they control. Right? Things that we already know. Teamwork. Main scheme. When the main scheme deck advances, remove the top main scheme from the game. Oh, hang on a second. Oh, except for acceleration tokens. Yeah. Resolve. All right, let's look at this. When the main scheme deck advances, follow these steps. The top main scheme card. Remove the top main scheme card from the game. Yeah. Return all tokens except acceleration tokens that were on the card. Resolve any when revealed ability to the A side of the new top card. Find the top card in the main scheme deck to its B side and revealed when revealed ability. So now we know, I think we've all knew this, but we are now making sure that we resolve the main scheme first the main scheme when revealed before resolving the villain when revealed. Overkill. When an ally or minion with a tough status card is dealt excess damage by an attack with overkill, overkill damage is not dealt to the identity of that ally's controller. All right. We spoke about permanent. We're going to do a lot of skimming now because A lot of this just doesn't seem important. I do want to get to the bottom with the errata because I know that some stuff there is interesting. We did a lot of speaking about the targets. We did a lot of speaking about tough already. So if you're interested in this, I do recommend checking this out, but I am going to scroll down to the errata. I'm looking at this right now. Villain phase. In player order, each player resolves the following. The villain activates against the player, then each minion. Yeah. Yeah, this is obvious stuff. So setup, right? We spoke about that already. So about creating the encounter deck, resolve the scenario setup first, and reveal the abilities, and then the villain. So there you go for that, right? We have FAQs here. We don't need to go through, right? What is this? If my hero has a tough status card, yeah, this is what I just said. If my hero has a tough status card and I am dealt damage, can I use an interrupt ability to reduce or prevent that damage? No. So we just spoke about that. So there you go. Widow's Bite, Thor, blah, blah, blah. Again, you can take a look at these at your own time if you want. I don't want to waste your time. There's nothing here is like under the FAQs is catching on my eye. I'm doing quick glances over because I haven't really had too many questions about these, but here's what I'd like to see. I did see this, okay? Superhuman law. So this is card wording that has been changed on cards, okay? So for She-Hulk Superhuman Law Division should read, it's an alter ego action, right? And exhaust Superhuman Law Division, spend a mental resource, remove 2 threat from a scheme, and has removed the thwart label, right? So that means a couple things, that you can do this now even if you're confused. So a lot of people are saying this is a buff to her, right? And the thing that everyone seems to be going crazy over on the Reddit is now the MODOK card now has the periods in his name. Huzzah! We did it, everyone. We did it. There's some campaign stuff here that I don't really play the campaign anymore. Here's that big Cosmo change, right? Okay, here's a Mad Titan change to the paragraphs. They have just a clarification on the Infinity Gauntlet. Here's the Cosmo again. The James Rhodes. People were also noting the Shield Maiden Valkyrie that got a little bit of a boost. That her Shield Maiden card does not have the defense trait, and it should. So a lot of people were playing it that way. But the Shield Maiden card now has the defense trait, which will allow her to use a lot of other cards that require defense trait to be triggered. Here's the Warm... again, this is why I'm skimming these, right? Machine Man, interrupt. When Machine Man attacks, thwarts, spend up to 3 resources of any type, and he gets +1 threat, +1 attack for each resource spent this way. And then they added for this use. I've always played it for that use. I never carried it over, right? And that's why I'm skimming things. We spoke about Miss Marvel Ally. We spoke about the Go for Champions update. We spoke about the big change to, right, the Logan card. His setup put Wolverine's claws into play. That's how a lot of us played it. There you go. And that's it. All right. You know, I didn't want to, again, I don't know how long that took. I'm not timing it, but if you want to really dig deep into this, as I probably will be picking at this through the entire week just to make sure I'm playing with the most updated rules, feel free to, right? This is on the Fantasy Flight main news section, but there you go. I've never done something like this before. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too boring, but the main thing to take away from this is check out other people's content too. Everybody makes great stuff. Thanks, everybody. Take care.